Gentlemen, I believe I'm going to, at the time being 10 a.m. or 10:01, I'm going to call the meeting of the Kane County Administration Committee. My name is Chris Caius. I'm the chairman. For Wednesday, February 10th, 2021. Can we have roll call, please?
Berman,
Berman here.
Davist,
Davist here.
Ford, Fries,
Fries here.
Gums,
Gums here.
Shepro, Martin,
Martin present.
Caius.
Caius present. Thank you. Item of business will be to accept the approve of the minutes from December 9th, 2020 and January 13th, 2021.
Gums moves to approve.
Gums
Seconds.
moves, Martin second. And I will just make a note that there were some minor changes that I submitted this morning about names, but it didn't alter them, more Scribner's errors than anything. So there should be a slight change, but not much. Are there any other comments about the minutes from the last meeting or from December 9th? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call to accept, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davist,
Davist, yes.
Ford.
Ford here.
Thank you. Fries,
Fries, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes.
Thank you.
And welcome, Madam Chairman. Or Chairperson. Okay. Item 3, financial report. Do we have someone here to present on the finance report? If not, then it's indicated that it is attached, so please refer to the agenda and the appendix. Anyone here for public comment? I don't think we have anybody submit. Anybody online or on the phone? Okay, nobody in the chambers? Moving right along. Facilities management, I think this is the Christopher Hansen.
Allen.
Oh, Christopher Allen. Christopher Allen, gee whiz.
That's all right,
I'll
sir.
get it.
Well, if it pleases the chair and the committee, I'd like to start with the capital projects update of the multi-use facility with a presentation.
Excellent. Pleases me.
All right, sir, next slide, please. Again, that's the architectural rendering of what the facility is to look like when we are complete, and it actually looks a lot like that right now. Next slide, please. Okay, this is where a picture of the current progress. As you can see, this is recent here with the snow. The exteriors work is all done. Obviously, we'll have to, towards the end of the project, we'll go back and do some touch-up and repainting as needed. Next slide, please. That's current state of the salt dome. It's not real exciting at this point, but it is a salt dome. Next slide, please, sir. All right, now we're going to go into the interiors here. There's been a lot of progress on the interiors, and this is the coroner's office exam room. As you can see, there's space for, we'll have 3 tables in there. That rather strange looking silver piece of mechanical equipment is an additional HVAC for scrubbing the air quality in there. Pending questions, we'll go to the next slide. Again, I want to point out that the epoxy work in the coroner's area is near 100% complete. You can look at the floors and how they're very shiny. Next slide, please. This is another exam room in the coroner's office for biohazard exams. It's a special area. And over in the upper right, you can see that piece of plywood there. That is actually where a scale is going to be when they bring the people in. Next slide, please. Okay, these pictures are of the freezers and the coolers. You can obviously look at the square footage of what they have are going to have. It's a considerable asset to the coroner's office and upgrade for sure. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the coroner's area Sallyport, where they'll be able to bring in vehicles and transport items in and out from outside into the building. Next slide, please. This is the record storage area. It's approximately 5,000 square feet. You can look at the scope of what we'll be able to move forward to in supporting of the other departments. Next slide, please, sir. Yes, Madam Chair.
Hi, can you go back to the slide about the storage area? What kind of racks are going to be up there? Are they going to be racks, because we have very high ceilings, so I assume they're going to be all the way up on top? Are they going to be?
Yeah, we're gonna go with pallet racking as high as we can safely, obviously, and then we'll need additional forklift support going forward, moving equipment up and down. So basically the walls, what I don't have is an overview layout, but we'll have 2 workstations in there. Right now, one slated for an IT member and another one slated for a building management member, as we're controlling assets coming in and out and being brought in, from vendors, being labeled, and then sent out to the buildings to support. And we'll be able to consolidate a lot of the building management equipment that's scattered across the county and store it in there and get it out of the weather.
So this is not for paper archives, this is for equipment?
There was discussion of that down the road, and in the future, if other departments need area to store, this is where we would do our best to accommodate that request.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Next slide, please. Okay, we're going to do a little before and after shot here. The maintenance area. This area to the left, you'll see a little wall there. That's going to be the power washing area for the sheriff's vehicles or county vehicles. And then over to the right, you see a lot of large overhead doors. There's going to be 4 lifts in that area for doing vehicle maintenance. This project is providing 2 new lifts, and we'll be moving the 2 current lifts that are out at the fleet maintenance area to this project. Okay. Pending any questions, next slide, please. That's what it looks like as of just last night. This is the epoxy floor, the first coat. Same product that's used over in the sheriff's office, and this is rated for these the sheriff's large vehicles to go on and off. This is a standard material used and spec'd out in fire departments. So we got a good product here. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a top view of the sheriff's mezzanine. It's additional storage area or training area, almost 6,400 square feet added with this mezzanine. So it's a really nice add to have in that space. And obviously you can see the lighting in there. It's very bright, very strong and efficient.
For training as well, or just like
However the sheriff wants to use it, that they've got the space.
Yep.
Next slide, please. So this is a picture of the railing up top on the mezzanine, obviously for safety. And you can see up in the upper right, there are swinging doors up there, so they can open that up and they can forklift material up there. And they don't have to necessarily carry it up on the stairs. So that's an efficiency. Next slide, please. Just pictures of hot water heaters and other mechanicals upstairs in the mezzanine. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the sheriff's vehicle storage area. Obviously, you saw it in previous slides. It is now epoxied. Or this area, I apologize, this area is being prepped to be epoxied. This is a very large space where they can bring in their equipment and get it out of the elements and do whatever they need with that space. Next slide, please. Just another shot from another angle. So again, it's a very large space. Next slide, please. Facilities management area. This will be the facilities management wash bay to the left, and to the right is maintenance and area. Next slide, please. So this is some cabinetry that's going into the facilities maintenance or management area. So the millwork has started in these spaces. Next slide, please. I believe that actually is the last slide. Yeah, that's the last slide. So pending any other questions, I'll continue on with the facilities management portion and capital project updates.
Yeah.
Davis
just,
here with a question.
Any questions, Mr. Davis?
I think last month we had talked a little bit about, I love the pictures that you've got for us here, but we had talked a little about before and after, not just of the progress in the new one, but having a record of the facilities that are in current use. So that when we present this to the world, we can show them, here's what it looks like inside the coroner's office now and what they're working with. Here's what it's going to be. Same thing with storage, with sheriff's office, with equipment that now sits outside. I think it'd be great to have, a record of all of those things so that we can show them side by side, what's being accomplished here. It'll make it, very clear to everybody how badly the improvements were needed and how much better this is going to be.
Absolutely. I have already spoke with the coroner about when they get some stuff moved out and areas are better accessible. I'll go in there and take pictures, as well as the current building management offices out at Fabian and areas that the sheriff stores their equipment.
Right. Anything that's being covered by this new facility, let's show them what the current status is.
Absolutely. Would you like to see that in the next month's meeting, or wait till the end?
But yeah, just so we don't miss it.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand, sir.
Comment by Fraz.
Mr. Froz?
Yeah, I want to thank Mark for those comments, because, as I'm looking at those beautiful, well-lit, epoxy floored areas, and, I wish the entire board could see, for example, where the bomb squad is and has been in a pole barn that's unheated. So, last night when it was below zero, all of that battery powered equipment they use, the robots and all their equipment is below zero. And, raccoons climbing in through the holes in the ceiling and things like that. So it's just an absolute, it's just such a joy to see all of this. And again, our employees have not complained all that much about these facilities, and that facilities maintenance section you saw, that's the first time ever that they'll have an actual, planned base of operations. So this is really exciting.
And Mr. Froz is our representative from the board during the construction, so congratulations to you, Mr. Froz.
Yeah, it's just so fun at this stage to see all this finish going in now, and things have just gone so well.
As a side note to the multi-use facility, we are going to start the grand opening / open house planning this Thursday. So we're ahead of the curve, and we're going to meet with representatives of the coroner's office, the sheriff's department, building management is obviously me. So we're going to get that going so we have an outstanding planned events.
Within sight. The
Great.
end is within sight.
It is. We need to get on this.
Then, Mr. Martin?
I don't have anything.
No comment, Ms. Martin? Thank you.
Board, I had a comment.
Madam Chairman?
I'm just curious, does the county have a de-accession policy for unneeded materials, equipment, and paper?
To my knowledge, that if you're going to take something out of service that goes through the purchasing office, i.e. get rid of equipment, vehicles, that kind of thing, I believe that goes through the purchasing office.
And archives, paper archives?
I can't speak to that, ma'am. I just know that there's a lot of paper. Say, for example, the coroner's office has to, by law, keep a death record, and they have those files from beginning of time with King County. And that's definitely something we're aware of. I'm sure that every other department has records requirements as well.
Yes, I understand that, and I know that those are important, but oftentimes there's paper that may not be needed, and as we move into this beautiful new area, I think you're going to have it filled up rather quickly. So perhaps that may be something that is reviewed and discussed before materials go into that facility, because we know that there's going to be, it's future use as well. So you want to make sure that not only are you bringing in the old paper archives, but there is room for any additional new ones, or are they going to be digitized, which I know is an additional expense.
Yes, ma'am.
Something to think about.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Ford, did you have a comment?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually am pretty proud of this facility, what's been done by Froz and and everybody else. I remember visiting the existing coroner's office a few years ago for the first time I got on the board, and this is a huge difference. I mean, this is more humane facility for our employees than what we had before. Just two thoughts. One is, are we using LED lighting? And the other one, any backup generators do we have?
Yes, sir, I can speak to that. Yes, the lighting is as efficient and LED, and as far as a backup generator, there is currently an installed backup generator out there that was part of this project that will cover the entire facility should there be a need.
All right.
Okay, and I don't know if Mr. Froz has anything to add to that about the energy efficiency and the LED lighting?
Yeah, well, it's a state-of-the-art facility, and as you remember, there was discussion about solar, so we've made the roof. The structure entirely has been made strong enough to accommodate solar. If we want to do that as an additional project in the future, especially if we get some grant money. But no, it's a very energy efficient building. Everything's state-of-the-art as far as that.
Great. Everything except geothermal, but
Yeah,
a long story there.
yeah,
Yeah.
long,
Okay, we ain't going back. The, okay, any other questions or comments about the multi-use facility?
All right, sir, thank you.
Go right ahead.
As per the last meeting, I briefed updates on all the budgeted capital projects that are under purview of building management. And at this time, I'd like to go through this list rather quickly and provide the committee an update. So the Building A elevator renovation project is now in design. So we're moving forward with that at light speed. The Building B lower roof replacement right next door over here, the IT building. I'm waiting to get our new A&E firms approved, and then I'll assign that work to one of those firms. The Building C updates, the rooftop units were placed on the top February 2nd, and they're in the process of, they had them running, and now we're working through some glitches, which just causes some temperature concerns, but we're working through that. It's a very complex project, and that's what happens, unfortunately, sometimes. The coroner's office demolition, again, I'm waiting for the new A&E firms to be established before I award that project. And I would also like to recommend that when we're doing the capital projects of the coroner's office and Fabian Building Road Management, that we work this in with the new green building policy, and that we look at how we're going to do this to be environmentally sound, and as well as look at future remediation that we can do out there and encapsulate in these two demolition projects. So that way we're being environmentally friendly, and we need to do that cleanup anyway of anything left behind. The parking lots and seal coating crack filling, again, we're with Mr. Griffith and I, we're under review and doing assessments of what actually makes sense. And when we get a new firm in, I'm going to ask for a CPI to be done, which is a paving index. So that way we rank, file, and order the priorities within the county, and that way we're moving forward with a better, clear vision of what is required of us. Same thing with the sidewalks. The CARES Act projects at all of the King County buildings were about 90% complete, and the holdup on that is we're waiting on the arrival of back-ordered materials and equipment. Basically, the whole world is looking for this stuff, and we're in line fighting with them. But we're moving forward to every chance we get and properly. And that's all I have in reference to capital projects update, pending any questions.
Mr. Martin?
I have a question, yes. Relative to the Fabian Road property, when I've been out there, there have been remnants of the old jail and the other stuff that you can still kind of see. Are we as far as we're going to go with that pending determination of use of that property, or is there still stuff to do I mean, I know that the maintenance building is being taken down, and I know that the old sheriff's office is being taken down. I'm presuming that the old pole buildings and coon nests are going to be taken down. Is there anything else that will remain that we're going to have to do in the future?
Yes, sir, that's my intent, as I basically gave the 50,000-foot view over, is then when we get these new firms in, we're going to do a really thorough deep dive into this property and figure out what we can do now and what we can do in phases. It really needs to be cleaned up. There's areas that need some love and attention for sure. Yes, sir.
Okay, any other comments?
I have a comment on item 5, the coroner's demolition.
Okay, Mr. Frost?
I just want to go on record, the coroner and the chief deputy coroner are both fighting over who gets to take the first swing of the wrecking ball on the demolition. So I think I'll ask Mr. Allen when he awards the contract to make that a part of the agreement with the contractor.
Flip a coin?
I do believe that
Bring 2 sledgehammers.
one of the chief deputies has volunteered for bulldozer training, and
Yes.
we'll see
Thank
what
you.
we can do to accommodate by all means.
I had
Thank
a
you,
question.
Mr. Frost.
Any other questions from members of the committee or other board members that are listening? The question on the parking lots, the parking lot repairs, you're going to be, that was a little bit muffled for me. You were saying you're going to be designing or planning long-term?
Yes, again, sort of like with the facilities assessments that I've discussed in the past and the master plan or the long-term plan, we can have a separate plan as well created in reference all our parking lots, our sidewalks, any paving, and that will put us on a very precise course and allow us to figure out how we're going to budget and prioritize that work to be done.
Long-range plan?
Yes, it is.
We'll know what the next step is going to be when it arrives,
Yes,
or before it arrives.
essentially, you know, the question comes to me or Mr. Griffiths is what's next on the list? We go to the list and say we did this, and then it, you know, it gets updated every year as we start taking these projects off, and then it also puts us on a maintenance plan. So we know when and where a maintenance plan. We know when and where what we can do internally in reference patching, seal coating, things of that nature.
Great. And then as far as the CARES Act, you said that we're just finishing up with the CARES Act, we're back order on things. Is there anything specific you'd like to mention in that, or is there?
No, we're moving along very well, and the thing I would really like to point out is I appreciate all the facilities staff or the staff members in these facilities because it has been operationally challenging at many times, you know, because when you're doing certain levels of work, say for example, work in the ceilings, people kind of have to vacate. And and I know it's been kind of a significant inconvenience, but as far as I'm concerned, everybody's been very supportive. They understand the work needs to be done, and we're going forward, and we're really building some new relationships that way as well.
Great. Any other questions, Mr. Allen?
Davis with maybe another comment.
Davis, Mr. Davis, go ahead.
You know, as the conversation turns to long-term planning and strategy, I think we have to, at least in the back of our minds, begin to factor in the concept of whether it's, you know, whether the long-term plan remains at that site or a transition to the Judicial Center campus. And that could have some effect on the decision-making on, you know, which things you do and don't do.
Correct, sir. When we get the master plan and the facilities plan developed, that's when we can sit down and review the strategies moving forward. And, you know, that'll tell us whether or not it makes sense to continue to, say, for example, fund capital projects on this campus or at any particular building or all the buildings. So that allows us to have better informed, true information to make precise decisions going forward.
Great.
Did that answer that, Mr. Davis?
Yep.
Great. Thank you. Okay, any other questions?
I hate to be such a newbie. This is Mavis Bates. May I
Bates?
ask who's giving this report?
It's Chris Allen speaking. Is that
Chris
the
Allen.
question?
Oh, Chris, is
I'm
that
sorry.
you? Okay, thank you.
Oh, well, it's either Chris Hansen or Chris Allen. I'm not sure. I confused it a little bit at the beginning there.
I'll be Chris Allen today, if that's
Christopher
okay.
Allen.
Thank you.
We're going to hire some guy named that with that name. Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Allen? Then I apologize
Chris.
and I thank you very much. The next item is a resolution authorizing an agreement for architect, engineer, and construction management at-risk services for at-risk services contracts. And that would again be you.
Yes, sir. So quick overview on this is that our current contracted A&E firm is, the terms of that contract are expiring. They are currently on an extension to June, but we still needed per the proper purchasing processes, put out an RFP. We had 13 fine firms submit their responses. It was through a panel. It was worked down to 5 outstanding firms. I want to say up front that I'd be honored to work with any of those 5. But at this time, I'm bringing to you, Mr. Chair, and the committee, a recommendation for 3 firms. Apologize. The 3 firms that I'm bringing forward on the list of 5 would be White and Company, Healy Bender, Patton and Bean Inc., and HOK for your consideration and review.
And those are in the resolution for those members that,
Yes, they are. They're listed, rank ordered, and the procurement synopsis provided by purchasing.
in paragraph 2. Okay. Well, I'll entertain a motion to authorize an agreement for this architecture.
Mr. Chairman, you're losing your mic.
I'll entertain a motion for this
Braz moves.
resolution. Davis moves.
Have a second or moves, either.
Who moved this? Who thought we moved?
Braz.
Roz?
Browse move, Davis second, I think.
I'll take your word for it. It got jumbled here. Okay. Is there any comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Ms.
Bates here.
Bates.
Bates. Pursuant to the brand new sustainability Kane County Green Building Policy, in section 2, oops, I've got it red underlined here. Section 4A1, this says purchasing department shall include a requirement for LEED accreditation and certified energy management in the request for qualifications for architectural services, and ensure that the project team has the qualifications to meet the green building policy. So I request that any architects that we hire are LEED certified as in our brand new plan.
Okay. Do you have a comment, Mr.?
I'll go back and look at that particular qualification, which was not, I don't believe was not part of the original grading criteria. But I would tell you this, that Mrs. Wolnick was on the panel of the scorers when it came down to these projects. So that process or that mindset was already included.
Well, we don't want to miss any opportunities.
No,
To make sure
and
that
you know,
we are-
as
Good question.
and in collaboration with the other departments that would be involved with the use of these A&E firms, is that would be something I would definitely be looking at all turns, is that any future design or any of that kind of thing would be environmentally friendly, and also looking for those credentials.
Yeah, we just passed this last week, so we changed the rules a little bit out from underneath you. I'm sorry to say, but they should be LEED certified. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure how that, I'll entertain input on how that might change things. Mr. Brown, do you have a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris, could you explain why you chose, or your panel chose to go with 3 different firms on this rather than sticking with one to do it all?
So in the RFP, there was a set requirements that the respondents had to address. And then during the interview process, there was a series of questions that were asked, and then they were graded per the individual panel members' understanding of how well they grasped the concepts of what the county was looking for and moving forward.
So your thinking is that possibly based on the project that you're going to put in front of whomever, there may be one firm that's more qualified than the other to handle that particular project?
Yeah, so how this will work is they don't tell us who's doing the work for us. We decide who we're going to assign the projects to per their particular qualifications and specialties.
Okay, thank you.
That way it gives us an option
That's why we have three.
3,
So we're not, we have that levity to assign the work.
and potentially if we lose one, we still have,
Two.
Yeah.
And per the resolution, there's language in the resolution that if we need to add anybody, we can go back to this original list of 5 and choose from there.
right, from the original 5. Okay, Mr. Martin?
Can I have the excuse me, the composition of the panel that reviewed this?
It was myself, Mr. Fonzak, and Ms. Wolnick.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else on the board? Madam Chairman?
Could you tell us a little bit about these companies, where they're located, a little history, knowledge about them?
I can do a quick overview on that. So these companies are primarily local. They're also a couple of them are very large in nature, so they can provide a wider range of services for our requirements. So White and Company are of Darien, Illinois. Healy, Bender, and Patton are in Naperville and Helmuth. And and HOK are from Chicago, Illinois. So again, they are local companies. One of the considerations is that we support our communities when we look at these kind of large kind of contracts. So does that answer your question, ma'am?
Yes. And can you please explain to me what is, I understand obviously what an architect is, engineer, what is construction manager at risk services?
So they oversee the projects to a certain level for us, or sort of like currently out at the multi-use facility, the contractor provides a superintendent who is there on site all the time, providing direction, arranging for deliveries, things of that nature, whereas somebody from the county is wearing multiple hats and just can't take on that level of detail of work.
Answer the question?
Madam Chairman, Davis with a comment. I can tell you that it doesn't surprise me to see White and Company, I guess at the top of this list. They have tremendous historical knowledge of our efforts at the county. They've done a lot of work for us and over the years, and know the projects that we've done before and have looked at doing in the future very, very well. So
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. And I have just one more.
Sure.
Do these companies represent a diverse population?
I can't.
It's not, obviously that's not a mandate, but diversity is very important in hiring. So
I can't answer to that right now, ma'am, but I can definitely get that answer for you.
that would be great. Thank you.
As say, for example, currently with our multi-use facility, when they were going out and gaining bids from the contractors, they were very focused on local support. And there are the contractors, there are state laws that they must adhere to as well.
Chairman, this is Roger.
Roger, you have the floor.
Thank you. One of the things that I just did some quick looking for Chris on the architects, and all three of them have lead accredited professional architects on staff. So just for the record, all three are lead accredited.
That's
Thanks,
great. Thank
Roger.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
It's Roger
Make
Fonstock.
sure we get that guy, please.
I'll see
Or
what I can
woman.
do, make sure. Yeah. Well, their committee's going to be committed to it. Okay, that's good to know. Any other questions that you might have? Board members?
Mr. Chairman, this is Deborah Allen.
Ms. Allen?
Just a question for Mr. Allen, spelled the other way. Normally, our contracts are maybe $250,000 to $300,000 a year, and I'm noticing that this is $450,000. Is that because of the your interest in doing the master plan study that you're building in the extra money? And am I correct that this is an up to amount?
That includes, ma'am, 2 years worth of design work for us. I believe the first year would be 300 and the second year is 150.
Okay, I'm sorry, the resolution or the first page, the summary explaining the resolution says 450,000 annually, so that confused me.
Okay, I'll have to go back and look into that, ma'am, and I owe you an answer.
No problem, thanks.
Thank you.
Body of the resolution says for a 2-year contract, I believe. We're,
3 one-year renewables.
And it says 450,000 per year.
For each year, yeah,
Each
it
year.
does need to be cleaned up a little there.
okay.
Or if we're building in a larger request for services, maybe that is an acceptable amount. I just wanted to clarify it. And it's always an up to, so
to.
you don't have to spend all of that money. It's just there if you need it when the crises occur.
Maybe a not to exceed language and clarification on the 2-year period.
Is that something we need to amend at this time, or amendment to the resolution?
It looks like it.
Well, then I would entertain a motion from someone to modify that. Can you have a suggestion for how that would read, Mr. Allen or Mr. Fonstock?
Mr. Chairman.
That first sentence refers to combined funds, which obviously I understand what it means, but it's definitely not, looking at it at a second glance, it is not as clear as it could be, as some of the committee members have mentioned. So I am definitely up for amending as needed, so there is clarity for all the board members and they feel comfortable.
Mr. Martin?
Mr. Chairman, I'm always uncomfortable doing amendments as we sit in a meeting. And I think this is going to course through finance, finance, is it not?
Yes.
Yes.
So why don't we just, as a consensus, give direction to Chris to work that because these are not clarifications of substance. This is just to clarify something. Make those corrections and present them at the finance committee. So he's had a chance to look at it and see the document, but I'm just always uncomfortable
Absolutely.
redrafting documents by a committee.
Always good sage advice. Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Mr. Chairman, Ford,
Yes, Mr. Ford.
the way this looks, it looks like these contracts can be up to 5 years, 2 years with 3 additional 1-year options for renewal.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Roger.
Yes, Mr. Fonstock.
Just for clarity, in the now therefore be it resolved, the resolving part, it should also resolve the portion of the resolution that says there are additional options or additional year options. That should be a part of the resolution part too, at the last paragraph.
And at what rate for each additional 1-year term?
Yeah, you should, in the now therefore be it resolved, there should be a statement about the optional renewals.
3
Yes.
additional 1-year optional renewal.
Yes, it should be included in the resolved part. Otherwise, you're just agreeing to a 2-year term.
I can have that added and amended.
Yeah.
So then I will ask the committee for a consensus to modify this resolution or pass it on and have it modified for the next committee, which would be finance. And that would include, did you make a list of that, what it is what would be changing?
Yes, I've been red penning the
Alan,
current
go ahead.
resolution in front of me.
And then could you read it back to us?
Yes, sir. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the 8th, whereas I need to clarify for finance the funding years. And in the final, now, therefore, I need to add language for the additional option years.
Okay, does that sound reasonable, Mr. Fonstock?
Yes.
That's what we're looking for, Mr. Martin? Okay, then
Consider it done.
looking for a nod or something or somebody say no. If they don't agree with this, we'll pass it on and vote on it as it stands with the understanding that we'll see those changes in those paragraphs that read something like that to accommodate that information. Sound reasonable? Nods?
Yeah,
Yes.
just
Yes.
one additional question.
Yes,
So
that's
for-
Mr. Davis?
Yes, Davis here.
Yes.
So essentially adding the not to exceed and defining the 450,000 as being for the 2-year period. When we make reference to the additional 1-year options or 3 of those, do we know at what rate? Is it at the 300,000? Is it the 150? Because the initial 2-year period is broken into sort of 2 separate amounts, although it's not laid out here. So each 1-year additional that's available, are we going to assign a dollar value to those?
I could provide a recommendation in this resolution and the draft language to that, but at this time, I don't think those funds have been budgeted. So I don't know if that brings on a future concern.
That would limit the scope of the work.
It may. I just wanted to address how we're addressing the idea that there's, that we can go into 3 additional 1-year terms, because somebody's going to want to know for how much.
I understand where we're going with this, and I can definitely add language to the effect of that. And I don't think I would actually be limited in scope of work, because I could always ask for a budget adjustment potentially, Mr. Caius, if we need to.
Yeah, I think that's part of the.
And if we don't use it, we
But
give it
if
back.
we don't use it, it doesn't, we don't.
Yeah, give it back or carry it over.
Chairman, this is Roger again.
I just want to make sure. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Fonstock.
If I'm clear on what Mr. Davis said, he's saying 250 it'd be $225,000 per year, or was it $450,000 per year for Mr. Allen? You're describing it as like half of the 450.
It would be, 220, my understanding is 225 per year for a 2-year contract, which would be 450. And then extensions beyond that of
Same amount.
the same amount.
225,000.
Can you put as appropriate or as yet to be determined by the board, so we don't have a finite language in there?
I'm not sure what we had in the past.
It would usually be not to exceed.
Would it be a problem? Since it's not to exceed, then whatever number we pick it just wouldn't go over that.
I think if you
And
don't,
again, if an
That's a
emergency,
common approach that gives you latitude, you know, but
If we
it
don't-
caps it.
if we don't put the, excuse me,
Mr.
we
Martin?
don't put if we don't put a figure in there that gives us predictability, then we may not have a binding contract. So that the not to exceed deals with that issue. But if we just say,
Right.
if we have something more vague, then the answer is we don't have a contract. We have an agreement to agree. And that's not a contract.
Right.
I
Okay, and I
remember.
think in the past, it has identified the number, the amount. Wasn't it 200,000 a year?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying, is it will have the.
I'm just saying, let's just put, let's agree upon a reasonable figure now to say not to exceed. And if something comes up that we go haywire on that, it'll have to come back to the board. But we do need to have a number in there to create a binding obligation.
Mr. Chairman, this is Roger again.
Mr. Fonstock?
So you would say a 2-year agreement not to exceed $225,000 per year with an option for 3 one-year renewals. And you could also include with, you know, an annual not to exceed 225,000. But all the options would come back to committee and the full board. You cannot renew an option for a contract like that without the board's approval anyway.
so what I'm going to be focusing on then is the 2 base years of not to exceed 225 a year. And then again, as Roger mentioned, then if we do an extension, it'd come to the board with a set price then.
Yeah, the difference is you wouldn't have to go out and do the RFP if you exercise the option to renew. You still have to have a resolution to obligate the board to the not to exceed $225,000 within a fiscal year.
I like that. I think that solves our problem.
This is Alan again.
It's Alan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a suggestion that Chris take a look at what was spent the last couple of years. The not to exceed amount, I believe, crept up because there were so many projects that were going on. I know no one has a crystal ball here, but you might want to give yourself a little more room than the 225 based on the past couple of years' experience. Just a suggestion. Thank you.
Very good point, Mrs. Allen. So if I understand what she's saying, she's recommending that we make a higher number, and if we use it, we'd use it, and if we don't, we don't. That way it gives us more latitude not to have to come back and ask for more.
Higher than the 225 per year.
Just based on the most recent experience so that you have that wiggle room if you need it.
Mhm. I think our last, as I recall, maybe Mr. Martin has better recollection than we've had, the last contract we've had was 200,000 a year. Is that correct? You think? You remember that, Mr. Martin?
I
You remember?
can't remember the amount.
Does it sound reasonable then to include that as, to have the next committee adopt that with the recommendation from Mr. Allen?
So are we talking
Past couple
to
years?
language referencing maybe 300 a year or 375 or whatever price point we want to put? Again, I think giving us, as Madam Chair recommending, giving us better latitude would definitely be of benefit.
Sound reasonable, Mr. Frost?
I was going to say I would go with the 300,000
Per year?
per year.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then I'm
Just a-
looking for a consensus. Oh, Mr. Ford, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I would agree with Frost. You just need to remember, just need to say not to exceed 300,000.
All, yeah, not to exceed. Okay, well, that sounds reasonable to me, and I'll again ask for nodding and consensus that that's, we're
Sounds
gonna
good.
pass this. And then
Sounds good to
that's
me.
what we'll pass on, okay? Great. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none? Seeing none in the room? We can vote on this then. Roll call, please.
Berman,
Herman, yes.
Davist,
There we go.
Ford?
Davis, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Ford?
Yes.
Fries?
Fries, yes.
Gums?
Gums, yes.
Martin?
Martin, yes.
Caius?
Caius, yes.
Passes.
Thank you. And now we'll move on. We'll move on to information technology. That would be you, Mr. Fonstock. Roger Fonstock?
And we have one resolution this morning for authorizing approval of personnel hiring for Information Technologies Department. We need a motion for that.
Davis
Fries
moves.
moves. Fries seconds.
Davis and Fraz?
So, Mr. Chairman, the resolution you have is for hiring a vacant desktop support analyst 1 position. And it is a position that we had a person resign from our department. So we're looking to fill that. In the summary, it describes the position, I think, at $45,000. It's a budgeted position for fiscal year 2021. So we're just asking for the rehire. I would ask for a motion to amend the resolution. There's a typographical error in it. In the second whereas, it should be seeks to fill. Just says seeks fill. And then in the final paragraph, the now therefore be it resolved, it needs to say the last three words, you would strike office assistant and you would put in desktop support analyst 1. So it's not, the office assistant was a position from a previous resolution. So it's just a typo. We didn't get that title corrected.
I move to amend for those changes.
Thank you.
Well, I think Fraz and I have to, you have a motion and a second hanging out there, but as the original mover, I will amend my motion to include the language changes that Mr. Fonstock just related to us.
Fries agrees.
So we have the motion with the agreement from Mr. Davis and Mr. Fraz to pass this with those understood typographical errors corrected. Is there any comments or questions about this? Hearing none, seeing none, roll call, please.
Berman?
Berman, yes.
Davis?
Davis, yes.
Ford?
Ford, yes.
Fries?
Fries, yes.
Gums?
Gums, yes.
Martin?
Martin, yes.
Caius?
Caius, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Mr. Fonstock? Oh, did you say thank you?
Yes, I said thank you. We have no other business for committee this morning. Thanks.
That's my question, I guess, then.
Yeah.
Anything else? That's it. Okay, thank you very much, Mr.
you.
Fonstock.
Yep.
Appreciate it. And then on to Mill Creek SSA, a resolution authorizing a contract for landscape maintenance services for Mill Creek SSA. Entertain a motion.
Fries moves.
Fraz moves.
Ford
Ford
will second.
seconds.
Ford second. Back to Mr. Allen.
Yes, sir. So the Mill Creek SSA, as you know, is its own special entity, special service area. The residents out there pay an assessed additional fee or tax to have services out there managed by Kane County Building Management. And the current contractor the term of that contract is coming to an end. So we needed to put out an RFP requesting for bidders to submit their bids in reference to the landscaping contract and provided services out there. We received 5 total proposals, and grading and scoring was done per the RFP requirements, and the top scoring vendor was Cornerstone Partners Horticultural Services Company, which is currently the contractor we have now. So my recommendation would be that we award Cornerstone with a new contract for the SSA services.
Any comments or questions?
I would just add, this is Fries, I would just add that the SSA Advisory Board and I think our staff have all been very satisfied with Cornerstone. They've been with us for quite a while, and they know the subdivision, and they've been responsive and do quality work. So we're very happy with them.
Sounds reasonable. Any other comments or questions? Anybody online? Hearing none? Roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Fries,
Raz, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Shepro, Martin,
Martin, yes.
Caius.
Guys, yes.
Thank you.
Item 8, vehicles. I don't believe we have any, I don't have anything on my agenda, so nothing happening there. 9, construction. Mr. Allen?
I have nothing additional after the previous information. But in relation to what we talked about, no, I just had an afterthought. I don't know if it's appropriate at this time to speak of it.
Go ahead.
Well, in reference to the option years and how much we would spend, I believe we set that at 300,000. I might think, now that I'm thinking about it, it might be a little more prudent to set the first year a little higher, just for the simple fact of the amount of assessment work and detailed planning we're going to be doing. Just a little higher, just in case.
I'm not sure how we do that. We just add that on to the recommendation as it goes. Are there questions or comments from anybody else on the committee? Mr. Froz?
Well, if Chris recommends that and we agree, I guess we could go back and amend our vote, but we would have to do another roll call.
I would recommend 500 for the first year and 300 for the next year, just to get us through all the monumental tasks we're going to be looking at as a recommendation, just to be safe.
Ford, question,
Yes, Mr. Ford?
just for that kind of number, that 500, can you give us idea what task we're talking about?
Yes, sir. We'll be looking at hiring the firms to do a master plan, which has been discussed before, facilities assessment, and the paving index. And all those plans are very detailed, very time consuming. I can see where we would definitely be in a safer place. I mean, we do have 27 facilities. We have a lot of parking lot. We have a lot of grounds. We have a lot of work to do as far as remediation at multiple locations such as Fabian. I'm just thinking of long-term objectives.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, it's Fries.
Froz?
Chris Allen, like what has been our average expenditure, per year on architectural services? Do you have a round figure?
I'd have to go back and provide a detailed number and accounting for that to this committee.
But I mean, it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yes, it has been.
Well, I guess, just to open it up, I would make a motion to reconsider, and then go back to that vote and provide the numbers as Mr. Allen recommended, which would be 500 first year and 300 for the years thereafter.
I'm not sure about the parliamentary procedure on that, but it sounds reasonable. It's a second. Mr. Martin, are we getting in the weeds here?
Well, you're beyond my danger level of
We're in the
of
weeds.
parliamentary procedure.
My inclination would be just to, since the amounts that we had agreed to were not specified, or were only specified as not as a resolution, but as a consensus for the amounts, that if we modify our consensus to that, the increased amount, it wouldn't change the resolution. The resolution we didn't change anyway. It was just the consensus.
I have a question, and I don't like to belabor things, but
Sure.
Does this need to be done this month? And I'll tell you why I ask, and that's because we're all kind of throwing numbers around and guessing at them, and there's stuff that Chris needs to review to give us, he said that when people ask for annual averages and everything, and I don't want to delay the process, but I think we would all be served well by having a tight viewpoint towards what history has been here. So we're making a decision based on, past practices as well as future estimate. Does anybody agree with me on that, or is that?
Yeah,
I guess the timeline would matter to me. I mean, if it doesn't have to be done right away, I would agree with that. Parliamentary wise, just did a little double check. We could do that. It has to be done in the same meeting. If we go the other way, then we'd have to do the rescind.
Mr. Allen?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the proper parliamentary term, but we could definitely table it this time. I refresh this document and bring back the additional requested information next month.
Well, then
Okay.
So
You'd have to
I believe
rescind
we
it
would have
then.
to rescind the motion.
We'd have to rescind
Parliamentary.
it and
She's
to
correct.
table it. I think the important question was, is there how would this affect, if we postpone it a month, how would this affect the timeline? Is this
Well, we still have contracted services until June, so that would not affect us should we have something arise that we need to get in the development. I think that we could have that, and of course, the board process, so from here it would go to finance and executive and then
right?
the board. I think we would need to get it done next month. But I feel comfortable with, taking the extra time to provide the committee members that information they wanted in a proper procedural fashion.
Mr.
Mr. Chairman, I would,
Then I think Drew has already moved to rescind. I would then second that motion.
Yeah, we have a motion on the floor.
well, I made a motion to reconsider, so I'll withdraw my earlier motion and I'll make a motion to rescind and table.
And I'll second that.
Could we please table specifically for how long? Is this a 30-day till the next
Yeah,
meeting?
table for 30 days, rescind our vote and table for 30 days and reconsider at that point.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Froz to,
Drew, you meant to the next scheduled meeting of this
Yeah, the
committee,
next
right?
scheduled meeting.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, thank you.
Might be 31 days.
I'll do, I have a motion on the floor to rescind and we'll just take that one first. And then a second by Mr. Froz, then a second by Mr. Martin. And I will take that under discussion. Any discussion about rescinding this? Mr. Brown?
Maybe not necessarily directly about rescinding it, but I'm just questioning as we're reconsidering this, and there's a lot of numbers be thrown around which are higher than what was in the resolution. I'm not certain, obviously, as to how the request for proposal was written. So as these numbers keep climbing, I'm wondering if the proposals that were sent back to the county may be or would have been different if the companies that presented those proposals knew that the number was actually going to be higher than what you saw in the resolution. In other words, would they have thought, hey, this is going to be a nice job for the next couple of years, so I'm going to cut my numbers down a little bit in order to get this? Because it seems like the numbers are climbing.
Mr. Chairman, this is Roger.
Mr. Fonstock?
As a part of the procurement process, purchasing did this as a qualifications-based selection.
Okay.
It's not based on price. So these were
Right.
evaluations based on certain criteria for their qualifications to do the work. So there were no price proposals.
Okay, thank you, Roger.
Okay, that answers that question.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Good question, though, Mr. Brown. So again, I have the motion to rescind and a second on the floor. Any,
You should qualify, rescind the motion as amended, correct?
and do.
Rescind okay.
Well, it was
So
not,
it's
it was not
clear.
amended. It was just with
We,
consensus.
yeah,
I think the
Send-
chairman's elected to handle them as two, which is probably advisable. So we're just rescinding, and then there'll be a motion to
And then
table.
we'll-
Is that what I understand?
Well, then we'll move and then we'll table.
Okay.
I'm not sure we can rescind and table the same thing. I think because the
Correct.
tabling requires no discussion.
right. I
That
think
would-
you're
that would
correct,
complicate things.
Well taken point.
Chris.
Let's vote on this.
So I'm going to ask for the roll call to rescind this, and then we'll readdress this and start again.
Mr.
Yes.
Roll
Chairman,
call.
Allen? I'm sorry.
Miss Allen?
Yeah, I just wanted to butt in for a second. Mr. Allen said that he was deferring a couple of capital projects until an architect engineering team was selected, and then he would assign those projects to whoever was selected as the best candidate for that particular project. So my question for Mr. Allen was, can he also defer for another month those projects?
Good question, Mrs. Allen. I firmly and comfortably believe I can do that. Those deferred projects are the demolitions out at the Fabian property. Those operational units such as building management and the sheriff's department's maintenance team will not be moving out there until late March, early April at this time. So we have plenty of time. So and once they're vacated, does the demolition and cleanup need to happen? Yes, but it's not time critical to me.
Okay, I think you also mentioned the clerk's roof.
Yes.
And you can wait on that as well.
I'm comfortable with that as well.
Thank you. Thanks,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Chairman.
Thanks. Good questions. Thank you, Ms. Allen. Okay, so this is then a motion to rescind the resolution. Roll call, please.
Foreman,
Yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Fraz,
Yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes. I'll entertain a motion to pass the very same thing we rescinded. No, it sounds weird.
Well, now we're going to table
No.
the,
Well, we have to have a motion. We have to bring the motion. We have to bring it to the table because we just rescinded it, right? So we have to start again, and I need a motion and a second, and then we'll table it.
Well, we have a motion. We can move the table before we move to approve.
yeah.
I thought we
It's
rescinded.
on your agenda as an action item, so you can move to table it to next month.
Oh, without a motion.
Correct.
Okay, well, then I'll entertain a motion to table this discussion for 30 days, or actually to our next scheduled
Which should be March
administration
10th.
meeting.
Which would be, I'll move to table this to the next monthly meeting of March 10th.
On March 10th. Thank you, Mr. Martin moves. Second?
Davis, second.
Davis, second. Any discussion?
No discussion.
Or else, huh?
Well, it's a motion to table has no discussion.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Thanks.
Right.
Excuse me, got carried away. In that case, we're tabling this, no discussion. Thanks, Mark.
Sorry.
Roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Fraz,
Yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes.
Thank you.
Woo-hoo.
That was a
We
long
made
ways
it.
to go to get nowhere.
I will never think out loud again.
We'll be revisiting those items in a month, and we'll have an update from Mr. Allen.
Yes, sir.
Complete
And
update.
Mr. Allen, now that you have this extra time, I expect those pictures to include the raccoons out in the other place.
Could you say that again? I couldn't hear you.
Mark, I have pictures of raccoon residue, but not the actual raccoon.
Mark wants
And that-
pictures of the raccoons.
Okay, now.
Where's my gavel when I need it?
Yes.
Okay, item 10, new business. You have a short synopsis of something for us, Mr. Allen?
Yes, sir. As we discussed, I have a little update for you, Mr. Chair, and the committee. And without going into great detail, as you know, building management has been looking for options for building A in reference to COVID safety and safety concerns in general. Without going into great detail, we had a little incident this week, which caused a lot of rethinking and by many parties. So what I'm going to let is I'm going to move forward with looking at a bid A for the building life safety and security renovations, and a optional bid B for a vestibule on this facility. So that what I'm going to do is I'm going to get clear actual pricing for this work rather than estimates, and that way we're better informed on how we'll proceed moving forward.
So that's a security item that relates to Building A.
Building A only.
Okay.
Excellent.
We definitely, not that we never had a need. I was not saying that, but we definitely, in lieu of recent events, definitely need to look at this a lot closer.
I believe we discussed this earlier when it came to the, another, maybe this committee or other committees with the sheriff out front
Mhm.
and being our security.
Yes, sir.
Chris, you're losing your mic. Mic, please.
Sorry, lean forward. So we discussed this previously, and as far as security of the building, a little bit. And so Mr. Allen is suggesting a proposal to review the vestibule and the building in total, or separately, but the entire, each one of those with a project and bid prices as suggestions to bring forth to this committee for our consideration.
Yes, sir.
This is not an action item. This is something that,
And these projects are not currently on the previously discussed capital projects list. When that was developed a year or so ago, that this was not the current situation to be
Thank you
considered at
for
that
looking
time.
into it.
so just a heads up that this is something we'll be discussing in the future.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
No surprises.
Yeah, that's good. No surprises. Thank you, Mr. Allen. Any questions or comments for Mr. Allen? All right, any old business? Can I have a motion to place the reports on file?
Ford moves.
Farmer second.
Was it Ford and Berman?
Thank you,
Ford and
Drew.
Berman?
It was Gums and Ford, I think.
I'll take
Whatever
that.
works.
Everybody keeps talking, we'll get it. All right. Roll call, please.
Berman,
Herman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Fraz,
Raz, yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes. Having too much fun, Michelle?
Well, have you looked at bras lately?
He's kind of small. Oh, okay.
That's the culprit right
recognize
there,
that guy.
right?
Now we're
That's
talking.
him.
Yeah, you haven't seen anything. Do you see what they leave behind in a building? Okay, thank you very much for that contribution, Mr. Froz. On that happy
You're
note,
welcome.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move
moved.
Ford.
Ford,
Everybody
Farmer.
moves.
all in favor, Berman?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.